This week, I'll show you how I reused textures and applied them to the Death Star's exhaust ports. So it is time to blow up our Death Star. So this is sort of the shot they had in the movie, so I decided to emulate it. Now, you'll notice this is different cannon fire than the other cannon fire, because when you blow up a Death Star, apparently you shoot it with a different type of cannon fire than a normal cannon fire to blow up a TIE fighter. So I emulated that, but the process was the same. The cannon fire is out there floating in space with 0 scale. Then 1/24th of a second later, it goes up to what is terrible scale, but that's the size I made it. My Achilles heel. And there it goes off to blow up the Death Star. So the shot from behind as the X-Wing shoots, and that is headed off to blow up the Death Star. Now you'll notice I didn't bother here to make it shrink, because I knew I was finishing the shot here as it was flying along the timeline. But to show you what would have happened in the other shots if I didn't shrink them back down to 0, you see that X-Wing flies right up, and it would fly through what it had just shot and blow itself up. So there it is, my 2 torpedoes, if you will, flying off into the distance. Now let's take a look at the close-up as those enter the exhaust port. Here is the close-up of our exhaust port. Now, the fun thing you're going to see here is you're going to notice that this is not part of the whole trench. I just made a separate little part of the trench and framed my shots so we weren't shooting off, and that we could see these little cannon fire shots fly into the exhaust port and blow up the Death Star. I don't have a timeline here, so let's open this up. Timeline, there we go. All right, this is not normally how I like to do things, but we will survive. So these again are following along a path. No keyframes there, they're just moving along the path. The path is deferred for the second one, so they go in one at a time. Over here, we can see them go in, and they're just sitting there off camera, and then they fly in 1, 2, right down into the exhaust port. And one fun little fact about my exhaust port here was I was terrible with creating textures and UV mapping. So all I believe I did, let's get in here. Fun fact, I used the TIE Fighter cockpit base color for my exhaust port. So I didn't create a material for this. I just stole the material from another object I was already using. As you can see here, I mapped it, and then I just shifted it around to find something that looked interesting. And nobody was the wiser that this exhaust port had the texture of my TIE Fighter. A little cheat you can do as you learn. Nothing has to be perfect. It just has to work for what you're doing and for where you are at skill-wise. Next week, the X-Wings fly out of the trench. I'll see you then.